कैसे हो दोस्तों आप लोग। सो वी आर बैक विद अनदर चैप्टर ऑफ लिटरेचर। इसका नाम है पोएट्स एंड पैनकेक्स। तो जैसे कि आप देख सकते हो, द नेम्स इटसेल्फ इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, एंड इट रिप्रेजेंट्स टू कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी वर्ड्स, पोएट्स एंड पैनकेक्स। तो पैनकेक्स एसेंशियली क्या होता था दोस्तों? तो ये कहानी है 1940s 1950s की, चेन्नई की, जहाँ पे एक स्टूडियो था जिसका नाम था जेमिनाई स्टूडियो। तो उस जेमिनाई स्टूडियो में इट वाज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट स्टूडियो ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम्स, एंड जहाँ पे बहुत सारी मूवीज, बहुत सारे थिएटर शूट्स होते रहते थे, एंड अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल एंड लॉट ऑफ क्राउड यूज्ड टू विजिट देयर। सो पैनकेक्स एक मटेरियल होता था जिसको बहुत ही बल्क क्वांटिटी में वहाँ के स्टूडियो मैनेजर्स और वहाँ के स्टूडियो मंगवाता था, विच वाज यूज्ड फॉर मेकअप ऑफ द आर्टिस्ट। सो पैनकेक्स और पोएट्स इसलिए बोला गया है कि ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम, दो जेमिनाई स्टूडियो वाज मेनली फॉर शूटिंग फिल्म्स एंड थिएटर्स, बट वहाँ पे बहुत सारे पोएट्स और एमिनेंट पर्सनालिटीज भी आती थी। तो हाउ द crowd who used to gather sometimes for film shooting, used to do a lot of makeups, and then they were used to again gather for some eminent personalities visiting and look at, used to, essentially understand and learn from poets visits during that time as well. बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग और बहुत ही सिंपल स्टोरी है। द राइटर हैज क्राफ्टेड इट ब्यूटिफुली, एंड एक्चुअली जब आप पढ़ रहे होते हो तो आपको वो सीन अपने दिमाग में, आप इवॉल्व कर सकते हो, एंड यू कैन सी हाउ दैट सीन played during that time. So very interesting story. Let's read it and let's look at it. So before we move on, let's a brief around the author. The author's name is Ashoka Mitran. His real name was Jagdish Tyagarajan. Very eminent author during that time, during that Gandhi era and even era after that. So he had written more than 200 short stories, 8 novels, and 8 novellas. So novellas are essentially, stories, or you can say stories that are bigger than short stories, but smaller than novels. So he's the author of these many writings. Distinguished essayist and critic, won Sahitya Academic Award in 1996. His work were known for clarity of thought and simplicity. Very simple, in a very simple way, he used to articulate his vision. And ये story में तो वो खुद भी उस studio का part थे. So he's actually writing, the story that he's narrating what he witnessed during that time at the Gemini studio. So very beautifully written. Let's look at it. Just one more thing before we move on with the story, that it is an extract from the novel My Years with the Boss. So again, as I said, that it's his own depiction of what he saw at Gemini Studio during that time, where he was working actually. So he recounts those years and actually narrates that story that he actually witnessed himself. तो जैसा कि हम सारी स्टोरीज के साथ करते आए हैं, वेरी easily we would break the story into scenes. In this story, we have broken this into 7 scenes. So first we would look at the explanation of that scene, how that scene, what that scene actually is, and then we would look at the text and try to explain you the story. So let's move to scene 1 straight away. The makeup department. So ये story start होती है दोस्तों with a beautiful illustration of the makeup department of the Gemini Studio, जहाँ पे वो इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं कि कैसे वो स्टूडियो बना हुआ था, कैसे वहाँ पे लाइट्स थी, कैसे वहाँ पे मेकअप यूज होता था, एंड इट एक्चुअली लुक्स एट how that studio was operating, for the film fraternity. So a very beautiful scene. Let's start with it. The chapter opens with the introduction of Pancakes, the brand name of the makeup material used in huge quantities at Gemini Studio. The makeup room looked like a hair-cutting salon with incandescent lights that emitted searing heat, making it a fiery misery for those being done up. There was a strict hierarchy. The chief makeup man did the lead actors, his assistant did the second leads, and the office boy did the crowd. The office boy, the man in his 40s who joined the studio hoping to become a star or a director, but ended up slapping paint on crowd players with a giant brush. तो essentially इसमें बताया गया है कि कैसे एक हायरार्की थी वहाँ पे स्टूडियो में, जहाँ पे जो मेन बंदा था, जो द मेन पर्सन who used to do makeup to the main artist, his assistant used to do makeup on the artists that were lower than the main artist, And then there was an office boy who used to do makeup to the crowd that was kind of joining the party, who were kind of offering their scene, and it was a huge crowd there. So how the office boy actually helped their makeup. So let's look at scene one, the text. Pancake was the brand name of the makeup material of that Gemini Studios bought in truckloads. The makeup department of the Gemini Studio was in the upstairs of a building that was believed to have been Robert Clive's stables. The makeup room had the look of a haircutting saloon with lights at all angles, around half a dozen of large mirrors. So ये essentially डिपिक्ट कर रहा है कि जो मेकअप रूम था वो कैसा बना हुआ था, how it was made and how it was run as well. कैसे there were a lot of people from different parts of India who were actually managing the makeup room, और कैसे उन्होंने पैनकेक जो एक मटेरियल होता था मेकअप का उसको ह्यूज लोड्स में खरीदा था, बिकॉज इट वाज यूज्ड टू kind of do makeup on a lot of crowd that used to visit the studio, who were part of the films that were being shot, and also the artists that were being there. So it essentially explained the same thing. Those were the days of mainly indoor shooting, and only 5% of the film were shoot outdoors. I suppose the set and studio lights needed the girls and boys to be made to look early in order to look presentable in the movie. It's kind of a sarcastic comment that the author says, that how the boys and girls used to look really ugly when the makeup or the pancake was applied onto them, and how that life was completely different from what they were witnessing before. A strict hierarchy was maintained in the makeup department. The chief makeup man made the chief actors and actresses ugly, his senior assistant the second hero and the heroine, and the junior assistant the main comedian, and so forth. The players who played the crowd were the responsibility of the office boy. On days when there was a crowd shooting, you could see him mixing his paint in a giant vessel and slapping on the crowd players. So you can imagine that scene wherein he used to mix that pancake into a large vessel and apply it on the crowd who used to be part of the shoots that were being made. He wasn't exactly, so this again I think we have already covered. Let's move on to scene 2 of the text. Introducing Kothamangalam Subu. So next in the story, the author gives an introduction to one of the main man of the story. His name was Subu, wherein he was kind of an all-rounder in the whole story that was depicted by the author. Subu actually जो responsible था बहुत सारी चीजों के लिए. He was kind of number 2 in the entire Gemini studio after the boss, whom the writer states that the boss was the main man, and second number पे Subu आता था. So Subu actually was an all-rounder. He can do various work. He was a very literate guy, as well as कोई भी scene होता था वहाँ पे, Subu can at one give 4 takes, and if the scene was not very impressive, he can give 13-14 takes after that. So Subu के बारे में बताया है, though he was very good, but there were a lot of people who were jealous of him as well, as he was part of almost every activity that was happening in the Gemini studio. तो सुबू का इंट्रोडक्शन है और सुबू के बारे में सीन में बोला गया है. सुबू इज द नंबर 2 at Gemini Studios and the foil of the frustrated office boy. He was tailor-made for films. He was resourceful, lawyer, and could offer 12 different ways to shoot a scene if the boss was unsatisfied. Though a poet and a novelist, he dedicated his genius to the film medium. He was charitable but had enemies, mostly the office boy who blamed Subu for his own failure. Let's look at the text. In all instances of frustration, you will always find the anger directed towards a single person openly or covertly, and this man of the makeup department was convinced that all his woes, ignominy, and neglect were due to Kothamangalam Subu. So this office boy, how he was jealous of Subu, this is actually introduced, and this is how he's introduced in the text. Subu was the number 2 at Gemini Studio. He could not have had a more encouraging opening in films than our grown-up makeup boy had. On the contrary, he must have had to face more uncertain and difficult times, for when he began his career, there were no firmly established film producing companies or studios. He had the ability to look cheerful at all times, even after having a hand in a flop film. He always had work for somebody. He could never do things on his own, but his sense of loyalty made him identify himself with his principle completely and turn the entire creativity to the principle's advantage. So this is actually referring to his qualities, kaise Subbu, a lot of people were jealous of Subbu, including the office boy. And secondly, Subbu, though he was, he was kind of a very illiterate person, he was a poet, he was a novelist. But though at the same point of time, he was a great actor as well. Though he didn't start his career at a very fruitful time, since there were not a lot of studios during that time, yet he was very successful and yet he was very effective in whatever he was doing. Here was a man who could be inspired when commanded. There was an example. So कैसे एक example दिया हुआ है इस novel, इस story में about Subbu. Let's look at that example. The rat fights the tigress underwater and kills her, but take pity on the cubs and tends them lovingly. I don't know how to do the scene, the producer would say. And Subbu would come out with 4 ways of rat pouring affection on the victim's offspring. Good, but I'm not sure if it is effective enough. The producer would say that in a minute. Subbu would come out with 14 more alternatives. Filmmaking must have been and was so easy with the man like Subbu around, and if ever there was a man who gave direction and definition to Gemini Studios during those golden years, it was Subbu. So how Subbu was actually helping a lot of producers. Let's say if a producer says that this is not a take and I don't know how to do this take, he would come up with a lot of alternatives and he would make the scene very easy for all the people that were on. He had a genuine love for anyone he came across, and his house was a permanent residence for dozens of near and far relations and acquaintances. It seemed against Subbu's nature to be even conscious that he was feeding and supporting so many of them. Such a charitable and improvident man, yet he had enemies. Was it because he seemed so close and intimate with the boss, or was it the general demeanor that resembled a psychopath? Or is leading to say nice things about everything? In any case, there was this man in the makeup department who would wish the direst things for Subbu. So, essentially, bataya gaya uski qualities, how he was one of the great people that were there around in the Gemini studio. Yet, at the same point of time, there were a lot of people who were jealous of him, including the makeup artist and the office boy, as stated in the text. Let's move to the next scene. The story department and the lawyer. So, the next scene talks about the story. So, Gemini Studios में बहुत सारे departments थे, and story department was one of them. As mentioned in the text, as mentioned in the story, and there was a legal advisor who was a lawyer professionally. Yet he was doing a lot of scenes and a lot of other things in the studio as well. It was a very nice setting in the studio कि बहुत सारे लोग बहुत सारी चीजें कर रहे हैं वहाँ पे. So story department में एक lawyer ही था, and there is this scene which is mentioned where there was a heroine who was kind of shouting at the producer. So that lawyer actually recorded the scene and played it, played it in front of everyone when this actress was not saying anything. And the actress was so humbled by whatever she heard, and she was kind of amazed by whatever he was saying. So, it's actually the whole setting कि कैसे कहीं scene हो रहे हैं, and there was a lot of things that was happening in the Gemini studio जो वहाँ पे depict किया गया है. Let's look at it. The studio had a story department which strangely included a lawyer. Known as the neutral man in the crowd of dreamers, he famously ended the career of a promising young actress by playing back a recording of a temper tantrum, which terrified her so much that she never acted again. So she was so terrified with hearing the recording that the lawyer recorded that she never acted again after hearing that recording. While everyone also wore khadi dhotis and white shirts, the lawyer wore trousers, a tie, and sometimes a coat looking like a lone cold tower. So, essentially उसकी यूनिफॉर्म के बारे में भी बताया गया है इस टेक्स्ट में. Let's look at the text. You saw Subbu always with the boss, but in the attendance roles, he was grouped under a department called the story department, comprising a lawyer and an assembly of writers and poets. The lawyer was also officially known as a legal advisor, but everybody referred to him as the opposite. While every other member of the department wore a kind of uniform, khadi dhoti with a slightly oversized and clumsily tailored with khadi shirt, the legal advisor wore pants and a tie, and sometimes a coat that looked like a coat of mail. Often he looked alone and helpless, a man of cold logic in a crowd of dreamers, a neutral man in an assembly of Gandhiites and Khadis. So, ये उस एरा की सेटिंग के बारे में बताया गया है कि कैसे लोग वहाँ पे उस समय धोती एंड लॉन्ग शर्ट पहनते थे. But this legal advisor was a little different. He used to wear a coat and a trouser and and a tie as well. So essentially उस पूरे सीन को, उस पूरे एरा को डिपिक्ट करने की कोशिश की है जो 1950s 1940s के अराउंड होता था. And how a lot of people used to wear khadi clothes during that time. Like so many of those who were close to the boss, he was allowed to produce a film. And though a lot of raw stock and pancake were used on it, not much came out of the film. Then one day the boss closed down the story department. This was perhaps the only instance in all human history where a lawyer lost a job because the poets were asked to go home. So very interestingly, the author states that he was also asked. The lawyer was asked to produce a film, but since that film was not successful, at the end, the story department was shut, and this was one of the first times that a lawyer was asked to go home because a lot of poets were not coming. So since he was part of the same department, so essentially, very sarcastically, he has said this line. So let's look at this next scene: communism and the studio culture. So essentially, this is again a very interesting part of the story, जहाँ पे the author states about communism. What was the thought process about communalism? How a lot of people who were followers of Gandhi during that era, actually thought that communalism was something, or communists were people who were not believing in God during that time. And how they actually believe that there was no relation above whatever they are kind of above the ideology that they are kind of witnessing or actually practicing. So communalism के बारे में थोड़ा कुछ बताया गया है, और ये भी बताया गया है कि कैसे एंटी कम्युनिस्ट सेंटिमेंट्स उस समय उभर रहे थे वहां पे, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ फॉलोअर्स वर ऑफ गांधी. So Asoka Mitram describes the political learning of the Gemini staff. The anti-communists, most staff members were followers of Gandhiji but had a vague fear of the communism that was spreading during that time. They believe a communist was a godless man with no filial or conjugal love. Conjugal love मतलब कहते हैं जैसे हस्बैंड वाइफ का प्यार होता है, या माँ बाप का प्यार होता है बच्चों की तरफ. तो वो कोई भी there was no they don't believe in that sort of a love, and they were kind of people who never used to believe in God during that time, according to the belief system at that point. Despite being in the film industry, the staff maintained a simple political outlook centered around the Congress party and the local politics. Let's look at the text. So it states Gemini Studios had an excellent mess which supplied good coffee at all times of the day and for most part of the night. Those were the days when Congress rule meant prohibition, and meeting over a cup of coffee was rather satisfying entertainment. Bearing the office boys and a couple of clerks, everybody else at the studio radiated leisure, a prerequisite for poetry. Most of them wore khadi and worshipped Gandhiji, but beyond that, they had not the faintest appreciation for political thought of any kind. Naturally, they were all averse to the term communalism. Communism, right? It's not communalism, it's communism. So essentially, it describes the setting during that time when there were a lot of people who were followers of Gandhi uh, uh, at and near the Gemini studio, and a lot of people used to visit and kind of enjoy the coffee that was offered at the canteen during that time, and that was considered to be a leisure, and that was considered to be an entertainment during that time, during that period of time at the Gemini studio. So most of them used to wear khadi, and most of them used to kind of fear of the communism that was spreading, or that the thought of communism, they were kind of very fearful around that. A communist was a godless man. He had no filial or conjugal love. He had no compunction about killing of his own parents or the children. He was always out to cause and spread unrest and violence among innocent and ignorant people. Such notions, which prevailed everywhere else in South India at that time, also naturally floated out vaguely among the khadi-clad poets of Gemini Studios. Evidence of it was soon forthcoming. So again, communism के बारे में क्या लोग फील करते थे, कम्युनिस्ट के बारे में क्या फील करते थे, वो इस लाइंस में बोलने की कोशिश. Let's move on to the next scene. The moral rearmament, the MRA army. So essentially, since there were two polar words, during that time. अगर हम story के beyond जाके देखें, एक रशिया था जहाँ पे there was a lot of communism that was spreading, and then there were European and Americans who were kind of very much opposite to that. So since India was a British colony before independence, a lot of British actors used to visit Gemini Studio, who used to make films and settings which were against communism, communist thought process during that time. So उनके बारे में कहा गया है कि ऐसी एक सीन था, या एक सीन जो स्टोरी में बताया गया है कि कैसे एक मॉरल रीआर्ममेंट आर्मी जिसमें 200 आर्टिस्ट visited Gemini Studio to shoot a film, and how Gemini Studio actually learnt a lot of things from that shoot that happened with 200 artists visiting that at that time. तो उसके बारे में बताया गया है और उसके बारे में ये सीन डिपिक्ट है. So let's look at it, what it says. In 1952, Frank Buchman's MRA, a sort of counter movement to international communism, visited the studio. 200 people from 200 nationalities staged two plays, Jotham Valley and The Forgotten Factor. While the play's messages were simple, their stagecraft and sunset and sunrises on stage influenced Tamil drama for years. Ashoka Mitran later realized that they were used as a tool for anti-communist propaganda. Let's look at the text. When Frank Buchman's moral rearmament army, some 200 strong, visited Madras sometime in 1952, they could not have found a warmer host in India than the Gemini Studio. Someone called the group an international circus. They weren't very good on the trapeze, and their acquaintance with animal was only at the dinner table. But they presented two plays in the most professional manner. The Jotham Valley and The Forgotten Factor, and several shows in Madras. And along with the other citizens of the city, the Gemini family of 600 saw the plays over and over again. So they were very popular plays, which all the people in the Gemini Studio, sub 600 of them, kind of watched it very, watched it over and over again. The staff of Gemini Studios had a nice time hosting 200 people of all hues and sizes, of at least 20 nationalities. It was such a change from the usual collection of crowd players waiting to be slapped with thick layers of makeup by the office boy in the makeup department. So again, it was such a different thing that was happening at Gemini Studio, very different from, the normal settings or the normal plays and shoots that were happening, where a lot of pancakes were applied to a lot of people. So it was a very different setting that. Okay, next we move to scene 6. Okay, this is the visit of the English poet Stephen Spender. So essentially, this scene depicts they were poets. So we have looked at pancakes and their effect on a lot of crowd that was visiting the Gemini Studio. Herein we talk about the poets as well. There was this guy called Stephen Spender who visited the Gemini Studio, and the boss, who was S.S. Vasan, he actually, read a long speech, welcoming the host. And then the host also said a lot of things which a lot of people didn't understand. And then there was this anti-climax wherein the author actually didn't realize why these poets are again and again witnessing the Gemini Studio. But he was able to figure it out in the last part of the scene. Let's look at the text. The boss, S.S. Vasan, organized a visit for an English poet. No one knew who the man was. They guessed he was an editor or a poet, but his British accent made him unintelligible to the Tamil-speaking staff. He spoke for an hour about freedom and democracy to the bewildered audience. He left, and his visit remained an unexplained mystery for years as to why he visited the Gemini Studio. Let's look at the text. A few months later, the telephone lines of the big bosses of Madras buzzed, and once again, we at Gemini Studio cleared a whole shooting stage to welcome another visitor. All they said was he was a poet from England. The only poets from England the simple Gemini staff knew or heard was Wordsmouth or Tennyson. The more literate ones knew about Keats, Shelley and Byron, and one or two might have faintly come to know of someone by the name Eliot. So essentially it talks around the simplicity of the people at Gemini Studio, कि कैसे वहाँ पे जो एजुकेटेड से एजुकेटेड लोग थे वो भी बहुत कम जानते थे ब्रिटिश पोएट्स के बारे में. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उन्होंने इन 5-6 राइटर्स के बारे में सुना होगा, जो कि वर्ड्समाउथ, टेनाइसन, who were kind of very famous during that time, Keats, Shelley, Byron, and at the most Eliot, जो कि one of the great poets होते थे during that time, उनके बारे में सुना था, but they were unaware of someone like Stephen visiting them. Who was the poet visiting the Gemini Studios now? He's not a poet, he's an editor. That's why the boss is giving him a big reception. Vasan was also the editor of the popular Tamil weekly Ananda Vikatan. At last, around 4 in the afternoon, the poet or the editor arrived. He was a tall man, very English, very serious, and of course, very unknown to all of us. Battling with half a dozen pedestal fans on the shooting stage, the boss read out a long speech. It was obvious that he too knew precious little about the poet or the editor. The speech was all in most general terms, but here and there it was peppered up with words like freedom and democracy. So essentially, how Vasan gave up a long speech about the poet and about a topic which no one actually understood, but there were words like freedom and democracy जो उसकी इनकी स्पीच में बार बार मेंशन हो रहा था. And then the poet spoke. He couldn't have addressed a more dashed and silent audience. No one knew what he was talking about, and the accent defeated any attempt to understand what he was saying. The whole thing lasted about an hour. The poet looked pretty baffled too, for he too must have felt the sheer incongruity of his talk about the thrills and travels of an English poet. His visit remained an unexplained mystery. So essentially, his visit remained an unexplained mystery. People were not able to understand, so as the author was not able to understand why he was visiting, and why what he was speaking actually didn't make sense, because it was not relevant and people could not understand why he was talking about these things. When I read the editor's name, I heard a bell ringing in my shrinking heart. It was the poet who had visited the Gemini studio. I felt like I had found a long lost brother, and I sang as I sealed the envelope and wrote out his address. I felt that he too would be singing the same song at the same time. Long lost brothers of Indian films discover each other by singing the same song in the first reel and in the final read of the film. Stephen Spender Stephen, that was his name. So again, एडिटर अगेन वो स्टीफन के बारे में बोल रहा है, कुछ लोग उसको पोएट बोल रहे थे, कुछ लोग उसको एडिटर बोल रहे थे. एंड so the author in this text is saying that he was not able to understand what he was speaking, right? I heard a bell ringing in my shrunken heart. It was the poet who had visited a Gemini studio. So जैसे वो उस when there's a next thing that happened in his life, और जैसे वो उस एडिटर के बारे में पढ़ता है in a book, he actually and he reads the name Stephen Spender, then immediately comes to his mind that, oh, this is the one who had visited a Gemini studio when he was part of it, right? So this is what he's saying in this scene. The final scene, let's look at what it's saying. Social and the cultural uplift. Years later, after leaving Gemini studio, Asoka Mitran finds the answer to the mystery of the visitor. He saw an announcement for a short story contest by a British periodical called The Encounter. He went to the British Council library and discovered the editor of The Encounter was Stephen Spender, the same man who had visited the studio. Later, Asoka Mitran bought a low-priced book titled The God That Filled, a collection of essays by 6 women men who described a journey into communism and a disillusioned return. One of the authors was Stephen Spender. The mystery was finally solved. Spender had been invited because the boss was also anti-communist. So essentially, this is again, next part of the text or next part of the scene or the final scene, जहाँ पे कि author, actually is visiting or finds the answer to why these poets and these people were visiting the Gemini studio. And especially Stephen, who visited this Gemini studio, he actually read a novel where Stephen was the editor, जो was actually looking at or that described a journey into communism and the disillusioned return. तो कैसे जो लोग होते हैं वो कम्युनिज्म को अडॉप्ट कर रहे थे और कैसे उससे वापस आ रहे थे. That was the whole story जिसके बारे में वो पढ़ता है. And at the end, he was able to figure out कि why Vasan was inviting all these people to the Gemini studio, because he too was anti-communist. Let's look at the text of this scene. And years later, when I was out of the Gemini studio and I had much time but not enough money, anything at a reduced price attracted my attention. On the footpath in front of the Madras Mount Road post office, there was a pile of brand new books for 50 paisa each. Actually, they were copies of the same book, an elegant paperback of American origin, special low price student edition in connection with the 50th anniversary of the Russian Revolution. I paid 50 paisa and picked up the copy of the book, The God That Failed. Six eminent men of letters in six separate essays describe their journey into communism and this illusion return. Andrew Guide, Richard Wright, Ignazio Silon, Arthur Koestler, Louis Fisher, and Stephen Spender. Stephen Spender. Suddenly, the book assumed tremendous significance. Stephen Spender, the poet who has visited Gemini Studios. In a moment, I felt a dark chamber of my mind lit up with hazy illumination. The reaction to Stephen Spender at Gemini Studios was no longer a mystery. The boss of the Gemini Studio may not have much to do with Spender's poetry, but not with his God that failed. So essentially, he जब अशोक का मित्रा जेमिनाई स्टूडियो छोड़ देते हैं, he was actually near post office in Madras, and he looks at this book जिसके 6 editors थे, जिसमें Stephen was one of them, who were actually explaining their story of getting into communism and coming out of it, and that's when it struck the author कि why Vasan was inviting these sort of authors to Gemini Studio, because he too was anti-communist. So this was the whole scene and the whole end to the story. I have also written two slides on significance of the title. Though I have explained these 2 slides, I just wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit on why the two things, poets and the pancakes, were completely different from each other. And there are 3 main layers to it, right? The first is the literal meaning, pancakes. This referred to the popular brand of makeup used by film artists of that era. And poets, that refers to the story department of the studio, which was a gathering place for literary giants like Yogir, Subramaniam, and even a number 2 of the studio, Subbu. So essentially, how the 2 contradictory things were kind of moving together. The pancakes was the makeup material that was used by Gemini Studio, and how poets, how the story department used to be a place where a lot of big poets used to gather and a lot of people used to see their work. So how Gemini Studio was witnessing 2 things at the same point of time. Then the irony of the setting. The title highlights the incongruity of the environment. Gemini Studio was a movie factory, yet it was a favorite haunt for poets as well. While the poets were there to create art, they were essentially employees of a commercial enterprise. In the legal advisor in a department meant for poets and dreamers, there was a lawyer as well, and cold figure whose logical action ended the creative dream of others. The irony of the setting, how how the 2 things though coexisted together, yet they were completely different, and how this whole setting was kind of a new story that evolved in itself. How poets were kind of moving in their own direction, and then there were movies that were moving in their own direction, and Gemini Studio became a point or a place where the 2 collided or coincided together. The symbolism of the God that failed. That title also bridges the gap between the local studio life and the global intellectual world. The poet's part of the title finds its ultimate fulfillment at the end of the chapter, when the narrator discovers the mysterious English visitor was Stephen Spender, a famous poet. This connects the local anecdotes of makeup and office boys to the larger political and literary themes of the mid-20th century, specifically the delusion with communism explored in the book The God That Failed. So essentially, the last part of, or the last 2 scenes, where the author discovers that all the things were not moving, in a haphazard manner, but there was logic to it. One logic was that the boss or the Vasan, who was the main man of Gemini Studio, actually was against communism. And that was the reason why he created the story department, and why there were a lot of poets and people visiting the Gemini Studio, which were actually realizing, or actually, reigniting the theme against communism. So a lot of poets who were against communism and visited the studio, and that's why Gemini Studio was not just a place for pancakes, but it was also a place for poets. So that was the symbolism that God that failed. That symbol of God that failed. ओके, सो दोस्तों आप कुछ क्वेश्चन आंसर्स देखते हैं, कुछ क्वेश्चन आंसर्स देखते हैं पोएट्स एंड पैनकेक्स के. लेट्स लुक एट द शॉर्ट आंसर टाइप फर्स्ट. पहला क्वेश्चन जो मैंने इसमें लिखा है वो व्हाट डज द पोएट्स एंड पैनकेक्स, व्हाट डज द टाइटल पोएट्स एंड पैनकेक्स रिफर टू. सो दोस्तों जैसे कि हमने पूरी स्टोरी में देखा, पैनकेक्स एक मेकअप मटेरियल था, जबकि जो जेमिनाई स्टूडियो था वो ऑन अ कॉन्ट्री वाज अ famous place for a lot of poets, you know, a lot of poets, lot of big poets, lot of big eminent personalities used to come here, right? But on the contrary it was also, उसकी उस स्टूडियो की सेटिंग ऐसी थी कि वहाँ पे बहुत सारे मेकअप आर्टिस्ट, बहुत सारी शूटिंग्स, यू नो, एंड ऑल अदर थिंग्स वर ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ दैट स्टूडियो. सो असेंशली ये दो बहुत कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी चीज़ें जो मैच करती हैं इस स्टूडियो में, वेर इन बोथ सॉर्ट ऑफ थिंग्स यूज टू हैपन साइमल्टेनियसली. Right, so I've written here that Pancakes was the brand name of the makeup material that Gemini Studio bought in the truckloads. The title refers to the irony that while the studio was a place for creative poets, they were often overshadowed by the pancakes and the assembly line nature of filmmaking and makeup. Right? They were often overshadowed by the pancakes, right? They were often overshadowed by the pancakes. Okay. नेक्स्ट देखते हैं. वाई वॉज द ऑफिस बॉय फ्रस्ट्रेटेड, हु डिड ही शोज हिज एंगर टूवर्ड्स. सो असेंशली हमने स्टोरी में पढ़ा था कि ऑफिस बॉय वांटेड टू बी अ बिग प्रोड्यूसर, डायरेक्टर और एन एक्टर in the hopes of becoming a screenwriter or a director, but essentially he was frustrated because he essentially इतने साल काम करने के बाद भी he remained a low level worker who only applied makeup to the crowd, right? And essentially जो भी उसका anger था, he directed all to Subbu for his lack of progress. He blamed Subbu for the lack of progress that he has made in his career, right? Who was Subbu? Why was Subbu considered number 2 at Gemini Studio? Essentially, he was the right hand man of the boss, that was Mr. Vasan, or essentially he was a resourceful guy wherein he had solutions to a lot of problems as well, right? So if a director had a problem, he would have a solution right handed, you know, 1 2 3 4 solutions he would offer directly, right? So essentially he was a resourceful, always had a solution for creative problems, and was a versatile poet and novelist as well, right? His loyalty and ability to work within the studio system made him indispensable and number 2 at the studio. How did the legal advisor differ from the other members of the story department, right? So essentially एक तो यूनिफॉर्म के बेसिस पे कि लीगल एडवाइजर्स वो ट्राउजर्स, टाई एंड समटाइम्स अ कोट एज वेल, which was different from the khadi outfit that a lot of people used to wear. That in that way he was different. He was a man of cold logic in room full of dreamers and poets, right? He was a man of logic, of cold logic rather, in a room of dreamers and poets. So that's how he was different. Okay, now let's look at a couple of long answer type questions as well that are important from the exam perspective, right? How does Ashoka Mittal describe the modern rearrangement army and their impact on the Gemini Studio? So the MRA essentially was a, you know, was a counter movement to international communism, right? Was a sort of a counter movement of international communism, and they visited the Gemini Studio in 1950 with around 200 people, right? And in 200 people, they performed 2 plays during that time, you know, Sun Up and Sundown. And they copied their drama Sun Up and Sundown in stage setting, and they performed 2 plays. I think I missed that writing here, but they performed 2 plays, and those were so versatile that a lot of plays that were done after those 2 plays were actually copied from, you know, the settings that they employed, right? So in that way it was different. Though the messages were simple, the sets and costumes were top tier. And these years Tamil drama copied the Sun and Sundown stage settings of those 2 plays that were done by them. The boss and the other wings in South India had unknowingly become host to an anti-communist movement, right? At the end of it, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, that was not disclosed, but a lot of people who were anti-communist visited during that period, and MRA was one of them, right? So that was the thing. So essentially इसको 3 पार्ट में हमको डिवाइड करना है. फर्स्ट द प्लेस, द 2 प्ले, ये मैंने लिखा है जॉनथन वैली एंड द फॉरगॉटन फैक्टर. ये 2 प्लेस जो उन्होंने यहाँ करवाए थे इसके बारे में लिखना है, 3-4 लाइन्स अराउंड दैट. देन देयर इम्पैक्ट की हाउ देयर मैसेजेस were simple, but the set and costumes were top tier, and how it was copied by the people in the Gemini Studio years after that as well, right? And the subtext that, you know, how MRA was essentially an anti-communist, and how Gemini Studio was becoming a place of a lot of anti-communist people who were arriving and giving their messages at that time. Okay. Next question, what was the English visitors? Why was the English visitors visit so mysterious, and who was he? The visitor was Stephen Splendor, the editor of the, okay. What was the English visitor's visit so mysterious, and who was he, right? So essentially English visitor, again, that again the thing that I mentioned before, that he was one of those people who actually was part of the anti-communist, who was an anti-communist, and Ashoka Mitran actually understood that and realized that when he saw his name in one of the novels along the roadside, right? And why was he invited? Because even though the conversation that he was making towards a Tamil speaking people was something very extraordinary, because he was speaking in English, which was not understandable by a lot of Tamilians that were there. But still, Vasan used to invite these people, and essentially when Ashoka Mitra found that the book, in which Stephen's name was written, and this was actually an book around anti-communalism at that point of time. At that time, he realized that his boss, Mr. Vasan, had a vicinity to people who were anti-communist at that time of time, because he too was an anti-communist. That's what he realized. So the audience could not understand the British accent that he imparted during that time. They wondered why an English poet was addressing a group of people who made simple Tamil films for an audience that had no interest in English poetry. The mystery was solved years later when Ashoka Mitran saw Splendor's name in the book titled The God That Failed, realizing that Splendor had been invited because he was a former communist disillusioned with the ideology. Right? So as I said, as Mr. Vasan was one with an anti-communist sort of an belief system, that's why he invited a lot of people who had the same sort of beliefs and imparted lectures to people during that time. So hope you have enjoyed the story, and hope you enjoyed the Q&A. Give your comments in the comment box, and we would come up with more stories after that. So stay tuned.